Good morning, everybody, and welcome to VidCon now. Welcome to this session. Super excited to have you here. We know we're starting a couple minutes late, but we're excited that you are here, and we look forward to providing some value to you over the next 45 minutes or so. So this session's exciting. We're talking about influencer partnerships, long-term influencer partnerships, the value of them, and we want to give some really great takeaways. We have some great guests, some great takeaways we're going to be going through. What a year. We wish we were in Anaheim with you all like we have been the last several years. But you're here, you're on your computer, hopefully you have some food, you're able to eat some lunch, and we'll jump in here. So I'm Tyler Farnsworth. I'm the founder and managing director of August United. We're a full service influencer marketing agency. We always say that we love ridding the world of boring marketing. We love doing things that are unique, that are interesting, that are out there, and we help our partners make some really great success happen. So today we have a few different guests in our panel. We're going to be talking through what it means to embark on a long-term partnership, and we're going to break down a longer-term partnership that we've been in over the past year. So want to introduce our panelists, and then we'll jump in and set the stage a little bit. So first, we have Heidi Bergeron. Heidi is outstanding. She's a brand marketer. She comes to us from PF Chang's. Heidi, anything else you want us to know about you?
No, I mean, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me to be on the panel, and I'm looking forward to chatting about some influencer marketing.
Outstanding. Yeah, Heidi's the director of brand marketing, knows this space incredibly well. Was really a lot of this was her brainchild, this campaign we'll talk about, and thank you for being here. We have Arie Luyendyk. Many of you may recognize Arie from his stint as the Bachelor. He's a professional race car driver, most importantly, a husband and a father, and just an incredible storyteller. He and his wife, Lauren, do just so much fun on their YouTube channel, on their Instagram. Arie, thanks for being here. Anything the audience should know about you?
No, thanks, Tyler, for having me. No, not really. You said it all. Obviously, came from The Bachelor, but more importantly, showing off our wonderful life here in Phoenix via social media, and it's been a great journey doing that, and it's been fun to bring everyone along with us in that.
Outstanding. And finally, we have Paul DeCiso, and Paul is, I often call him the talent whisperer. This guy is absolutely outstanding, the best in the business, understands the ins and outs, has great relationships with brands, with marketers, with great people and great talent. He's negotiated well over $100 million in contracts over the past several years. He knows his stuff. Paul, anything else we should know about you?
Honestly, no. Just really excited to jump in and answer some questions and share a crazy, interesting world that we live in with people that are very excited to hear about it.
Awesome. Well, cool. Well, I want to set the stage just so the audience can get a sense of what this looked like. Every person you see here on screen played a role in this work that I'm about to show you. And I think this will inspire the rest of our dialogue. After I go through a couple of things to give the audience the perspective here, we'll then jump in and have this panel kicked off. All right, so let's hop over to just a couple slides to set the stage here. All right. So here's where we're at. When we jumped into this, we knew that we had the opportunity to do some great work. And this started, and you're not going to be able to hear this audio, unfortunately, but this started about a year ago. And Arie sent a video to us, and we sent it to PF Chang's as we were embarking on this whole journey. And he revealed to PF Chang's that he had worked for PF Chang's. It was one of his very first jobs. And so it's this exciting intro right at the beginning. And this kind of kicked off this whole deal. And this was right at the beginning of a campaign that we were launching, or that PF Chang's was launching, this freestyle lettuce wraps contest. PF Chang's is synonymous in many ways with the lettuce wrap. They're the home of the original lettuce wrap. It's an absolutely outstanding dish, and they wanted to amplify that, bring some new flavors. And so as part of that, we had this campaign goal of increasing awareness of PF Chang's as a whole, but also as of the lettuce wraps and encourage fans to come and partake in this contest to help bring forth the next lettuce wrap flavor. And so as a part of that, we had a couple of waves. And wave one was we wanted to generate awareness and generate contest submissions. So we wanted people to submit their ideas for what it could look like going forward. And we know that partnering with a great creator, a great influencer, is a blend of art and science. So we wanted to not just look at the things that Arie, the connections Arie had to Chang's and and the love he had for the brand, but also digging into some of the fundamentals and some of the data points. Arie has an incredible engagement rate with his audience. His audience is engaged. They love him. They love who he is. And we knew that it mirrored a lot of the audience that us as a brand and PF Chang's wanted to reach. And so it kicked off like this, where Arie and family went to the PF Chang's here in Scottsdale. This is actually the original or the first PF Chang's, and they brought their community into this world. Arie indicated this is the first, or one of the first places that he had worked, and then kicked off this contest, this freestyle lettuce wrap contest. So while there, did just some really great background, showcased the audience around the restaurant, talked about the whole program, and just brought people inside in the back end of what was going on there. And then on Instagram proper, posted some great food photos, cute photo of Alessi here, but brought the audience in. The audience responded well. This was our first interaction with PF Chang's and Arie as a partner, and it was really refreshing to see how well the audience reacted and how excited people were. And this brought us to phase two. And in phase two, this is where Arie made the call to action for folks to go and vote. So to not just submit, but then to go and vote on the top 10. So there were already over 50,000 entries in this contest of people who were trying to figure out or trying to submit for that next great flavor. And so then fast forward, this contest took us all the way to Las Vegas, where we had this really incredible event where we brought the top 3 vote getters into Las Vegas, brought a whole bunch of people into the PF Chang's, the beautiful PF Chang's location on the Strip, brought some additional celebrity judges down, and Arie continued the partnership with PF Chang's, bringing his wife Lauren and himself to Vegas to be part of this contest. So again, this is just kind of an intro of what happened and some of the excitement, some of the fun. Montel Jordan of This Is How We Do It fame was there performing and being a part of the contest judging as well. So again, another post, another set of stories, bringing people through this entire journey of the lettuce wrap. And actually, I want to talk about something super fast. Arie, there was another thing that happened while you were in Vegas. What happened while you were in Vegas for PF Chang's?
Yeah, I'm looking back at those story slides that you just showed, and it brings a lot of memories because we actually met Montel Jordan at the PF Chang's event, and then he remarried us at the Little White Chapel the next day. So it was actually that night. So it's kind of crazy. We were just, chatting, and he said, "Oh, I'm an ordained minister." And I said, "Oh, really?" I said, "Lauren and I want to go get remarried at the Little White Chapel because we always talked about eloping." And then he said, "Oh, I'll marry you guys." So he came and he did a beautiful job remarrying us, and he was such a nice guy, and it was just such a great weekend in general. So I have to thank PF Chang's for that intro. I'll never forget it. So yeah, it was great.
That was awesome, and you did it. That is how you did it, there, Arie. That's
exactly. And I was a little disappointed because he didn't say at the end there, when he was marrying us, he did not say, "This is how we do it." And I was just waiting for the line during it, but he never did it. So I gave him slack for that.
That was definitely an unintended outcome, but a very welcomed and fun and funny outcome of this whole experience. And anyway, so fun things can happen in these longer term partnerships. And now I want to fast forward, and then we'll wrap this up and we'll get to the panel. fast forward a couple months, the world got crazy and COVID hit, and we knew that PF Chang's had this opportunity to shift to online ordering and delivery in a big way. And so, as an extension of the partnership and knowing the love that the audience had and that Arie and family had for the brand, we continued this partnership into talking about delivery and what that could look like and home date nights and these sorts of things. And so went back, like you see on screen here, had another great partnership that really went over well. And as Arie can attest to, I'm sure, comments are always super nice, right? Every comment you ever have is completely positive, right, Arie? There's never any negative people, right?
Correct. Yeah. So for this partnership, I think there's a lot of love for PF Chang's in general. And then my personal connection with the brand, and then also doing a long-term partnership where my audience has seen PF Chang's being integrated in my content over a long period of time has really solidified the fact that I'm 100% on board with what PF Chang's is doing. I love PF Chang's, and I think that really reads well to my audience. So yeah, we've had a lot of success with these posts.
Yeah. And, something that we saw is, sometimes comments are not as nice, right? And so it's something like this where you have Toots up here. And what I love is you come in and say, no, this is who I am. I like this. I actually love this. And I love at the bottom your audience who comes in and says, hey, if you actually are a fan, if you actually follow Arie and Lauren, you know that he worked for them. He loves them. Who doesn't love them? And I love that when the audience comes in, has your back, understands it, knows that you've been with the brand for a long time. And I think that's a test to kind of what you were just talking about, that it showcases this longevity of value.
Mm-hmm, exactly. Yeah, I think that it is interesting when there is a comment like that, because you'll get that when you're doing brand integrations. But if your following really knows the passion that you have for the brand and they really believe that you believe in the brand, they kind of come to your defense like you're seeing here.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's see. So like I said, outcomes, data, we're marketers, we're data focused. Over 50,000 entries. Arie personally drove thousands and thousands of clicks to both sides of the equation, as well as online ordering. And then over 3.5 million views over the past year from these partnerships. Super grateful for everything that Arie's brought to the partnership, but I just want to showcase some of these outcomes before we jump back. And I know for a lot of you, it's lunchtime. And so if these last few slides didn't make you hungry, this one probably will. And I know it's making me a little bit hungry. So one key thing that I want to let you know, we are going to have a lower third that comes up, and there will be a couple other opportunities for you to click through. Throughout the conversation today, we are going to take some notes and create a best practices doc that we will send out to anybody who requests it. So you can click through to the link, you can request it in the lead form there, and we will both send the best practices document. We're also going to be sending gift cards, a few gift cards out to folks who request the best practices document. So you can try out some lettuce wraps and have some fun. So with that, I want to jump over to the panel, and we're going to jump into some questions and talk through some cool things. All right. We're all here. Good. We're back. So I'm going to kick off, and Heidi, we'll start with you. And this question is actually going to be for everybody. So Arie and Paul, you're on deck. What advice would you give to brand marketers looking to move beyond one-off transactional partnerships to longer-term creator partnerships?
Yeah, absolutely. So first, find a partner that aligns with your brand. But I would also encourage that you test a relationship before committing to a long-term partnership. Something that we did with Arie, and as you saw Tyler talking about, his initial post exceeded our expectations. His engagement rates were much higher than anything that we have seen personally as a brand, which was really exciting. What that did for us is showcase that Arie's followers are open to hearing about and engaging with the PF Chang's brand. So for other marketers, I would highly encourage you guys to do something similar, because it's going to make your decision and your confidence level in that decision much greater when you know that the partner that you're working with is actually, their followers are going to be receptive to your brand's messaging. It's just going to help you achieve your goals at a much greater scale.
Awesome. Arie, what about you?
Yeah, I think she pointed that out, the personal connection I had to PF Chang's, but it doesn't really need to be a personal connection, just a product that you really believe in and you use. I mean, PF Chang's is a great example of a long-term partnership that I've had, but I feel like as an influencer, it's important that you're speaking to your audience in a very authentic manner. They can really tell if it's forced or if it's a product or service that you don't use. And I think that's why the PF Chang's partnership has worked so well, just because of that personal connection I have with the brand.
Awesome. Thanks, Arie. And Paul, people are coming to you all the time, and you're having to be that intermediary between a brand or an agency and your friends and talent partners. How do you bridge that, or what advice do you have for brands there?
A lot of times there's a lot of relationship in this business, and when brands, if you're a great opportunity and you really want to work with someone that's in demand, their audience is authentic, you did your research, you really saw that they're going to knock it out of the park. A lot of times it pays to really go through a right source versus, what we're seeing now is a lot of companies that are just doing blast emails, and a lot of influencers or celebrities, they have emails on their Instagram or their, or just certain pages. You don't know where those emails are going. And we do a lot of direct business. We do a lot of volume. And in this business, especially when you're really looking to get quick answers or something, like put together a really, sizable partnership, you want to make sure that it's with the right source and someone that is reliable versus sometimes going through just, someone's assistant or someone that's never put together any of these deals before in the past, because it just opens up the door to issues in the future.
That's great. And, Paul, kind of like what you're saying there, we always see influencer marketing is not like buying a Google ad or buying Facebook ads. We're working with people, really great people, really smart people, really exciting people, and it's a relationship based, type of marketing. And so it's different. It's different in a big way than just making a buy or making an ad buy like that. Heidi, as a brand marketer, what do you hope to achieve with a good influencer or creator partnership?
Yeah, so for me, my objective is always building top of mind awareness and reaching a new audience. PF Chang's is a 27-year-old brand, so we've been around for quite some time. And while we have high brand awareness, the most common response I get when somebody finds out where I work is, "Oh, I love PF Chang's, but I haven't been there in forever," which really showcases that people know who we are, but they're just not thinking about us. We're not in that consideration set when it's time to dine out. Working with influencers, creators on a partnership, tapping into their audiences is allowing us to reach an entirely new set of people that we would not have otherwise been exposed to. I can talk to the same people on our email and our social media channels. However, that's not really going to move the needle much, right? I'm talking to the same people, telling them the same thing over and over again. What I really want to do is I want to reach a new set of new audience, to bring them in, either introduce them to the brand or remind them about us. And ultimately, that's where we found the greatest success with our partnerships.
Awesome. Thank you. Arie, when you do different partnerships. There are partnerships that are going to be a singular one-off, and then there are partnerships that are going to have more of a longevity. And there's value on both sides, but how do long-term partnerships differ for you from a one-off partnership?
I think the longer term partnerships really solidify the fact that I'm behind that brand and that brand is associated with me. There's a few partnerships that Paul has set in place for me that are been really great partnerships, long-term partnerships. And I feel like the audience is more engaged on those. I feel like reinforcement is important, because if you are talking about a brand like PF Chang's one time, people are so fleeting, but if you're doing it multiple times over months, they'll be like, oh yeah, Arie is really loves PF Chang's. He goes there, he used to work there. And you saw from that comment, even the audience recognizes that. So I think a long-term partnership obviously is something that just really reinforces your connection to the brand.
Awesome. In Paul, somewhat of a similar question, but more from your perspective, where do you see the value in a long-term partnership versus a one-off partnership when you're going through the negotiations?
Totally. There's several, main bullet points we can hit on that. First is cost. Usually, it's a lot easier to put together a bulk package up front than trying to piecemeal things. Like in, let's say, June, you cut a deal, and then Q4 comes around. You really want to do something close to like Black Friday or the holidays, and someone's schedule is completely booked out. You're going to pay top dollar to try to make it happen last minute. Another thing is competitors. A lot of companies are always looking for solutions, and this space is very new and innovative, and it works. The first couple slides that you showed, wow, blew it out of the park. Arie killed it. Arie kills it. And, good news spreads pretty quickly. And, it wouldn't surprise me if other companies have heard of that success. And when you have a lot of longer-term partnerships, you kind of secure that relationship with a creator or influencer or celebrity, and you maintain that. A lot of times it's hard to really hold out on opportunities. If, let's say, PF Chang's worked with Arie one time, it worked out, but let's say, fiscal budgets, it wouldn't work out to work with them another year. 6 months from now, Arie, even though he has this great relationship, he could, he likes other restaurants. It's just really good to secure that in if after you see success as quickly as possible for cost reasons, authenticity, and also to maintain partnerships.
Killer. Solid advice. Awesome advice.
I think it's funny too, because I'm listening to Paul talk, and I come from the world of racing where my whole life I sold sponsorship on race cars, and it was so hard to quantify. And I feel like the great part about social media is that it's so quantifiable when you have all the data behind the posts. And that's what I see when I know I have a great partnership going with a brand. When we see a ton of traffic being driven, a lot of eyeballs on it, a lot of engagement, I know that my audience is really into that brand. And that's something that we saw with PF Chang's is, hundreds and thousands of comments about how great the lettuce wraps are. Just shows you that there's a passionate audience out there. And if you tap into that, it's very powerful.
Fantastic. Heidi, this lettuce wraps event was a huge thing you spent a lot of time and energy on. And, when you're looking at something like that, what value did you see that the influencer partnerships brought or the creator partnerships brought to that lettuce wrap event?
Oh, it was huge for us. It allowed us to get that message out there at a much broader scale. As you talked about initially, this is a very complex contest. It had 3 phases. The first was getting people to, one, submit ideas. The second was go back and vote for the ideas that we, whittled it down to. And then lastly, hey, now we're picking the top, the winner out of the top 3 in Vegas and live stream it. So in order to keep that momentum going, we really relied on our creator partnerships. Additionally, we were able to reach a wide range of demographics with the partners that we had on board. I mean, if you think about our celebrity judges, who did we have? We had Arie, we had singer Montel Jordan, we had celebrity chef Scott Conant, all of which have very strong, very unique follower bases. So that allowed us to reach that broader audience at a scale that we honestly would never have been able to do, just using our own channels.
Awesome. Arie, from a creator perspective, what do the best brands bring to you? Is it creative freedom? Is it lots of direction? Is it, the timeline? What do the best brands bring? There are a lot of brands on the call today or on the session today. I mean, this is your opportunity to make a mark and help coach and guide some of these brands to being better going forward.
I think some creative freedom is obviously, we know our audience, so we know what's going to work. But I feel like some guidance and some great ideas that get thrown out there, that's always very helpful. I think the ones that are the most successful have a blend of some structure, what are we trying to accomplish, but then also the creative freedom for us to think about what content works for our audience. A good example of that, I would say, with PF Chang's would be the static posts where, trying to figure out how to showcase the food, but having a family moment and doing it all and making it very authentic looking instead of just taking a selfie or, so from a creative standpoint, I think a blend of having some freedom, but also trying to really nail down what the brand wants, so that we can better serve them as well.
Awesome. Paul, earlier this week, we were chatting a little bit how the influencer marketing space is changing. It's shifting. It's really growing in a huge way. And I don't see that stopping anytime soon, especially here in the COVID environment. We've seen the value of influencer partnerships just continue to skyrocket as traditional production has changed and media landscape has changed in a huge way. What advice, Paul, do you have, or what's the benefit that brands get from working with a great talent manager or talent agent?
I kind of hit on this a little bit earlier, but it's supply and demand. Something that I've learned very early on is that you could have, in an environment like this where supply is limited, demand starts to go up, you could have all the money in the world. And if you want to work with incredible creators or influencers or celebrities, money doesn't dictate that. Arie, for example, has this amazing relationship right now with P.F. Chang's, and if someone came to the table with, let's say, 3 or 4 times more money, the relationship is more important than sometimes financial gain. And it's just something where what we're seeing now is that there's so many direct-to-consumer brands that are starting to come into the space, and what they're really looking to do is, they look at creators like Arie and they're seeing value. They're like, wow, if I pay him X dollars, I'm able to make money from that. And it's something where a lot of people that are in demand and actually work and actually convert, they have a limited schedule. They can only work with so many brands and a certain, amount of obligations per week or month. And if you don't have a pre-existing relationship, as the demand for them goes up, it's harder to secure them. So a lot of times, you just have to do due diligence or have a pre-existing relationship or build a relationship with these partners to continue doing business with them long term.
Yeah, I think as far as an influencer goes, there's a very fine line between how many posts are organic and how many posts are sponsored paid posts. And I think that is something that as an influencer, you try to balance, because you really don't want to alienate your audience by, let's say, we have a partnership with P.F. Chang's and next week it's Applebee's and the week after that it's, wherever. And, you need to be authentic. And I feel like it's always a balancing act. Paul's really good about scheduling the posts, making sure that the brands are happy, and then also making sure that we're not doing too many sponsored posts and lose following. I mean, that ultimately you want to have trust with your following, and that's something that's hard to do if you're doing a lot of paid advertisement.
Yeah, the audience that you have as a creator is everything. I mean, it's everything. The respect that you generate there, the engagement that you have with them, the trust that you build and maintain is huge. Heidi, what advice would you have or would you give to brand marketers that are evaluating whether a creator or influencer is a good partner for them?
Yeah, so I mean, the biggest thing is making sure that that partner aligns with your brand's core values. They share the same voice, the same interests, because ultimately that's going to result in higher levels of engagement for you. Additionally, something that, I always keep in the back of my mind, because as a brand marketer, part of my role is to protect the brand. It is important to make sure that you are finding somebody that fits with your brand. You don't want somebody that, might have something controversial or, contradicts kind of values or stances that your company has taken in the past, because, you are guaranteed to likely have a PR issue on your hands or more backlash ending up being more detrimental than helpful to you in the end. So finding that right fit is the number one advice I can make sure to give to any brand marketer considering partnerships, especially long-term partnerships. You just want to make sure that you guys are aligned, that that trust is there. And that's what's been so great about Arie is he's really built that with the brand. He's communicated that authenticity from, saying on one of his first posts how P.F. Chang's is one of his first jobs. That's huge. I mean, that really drew an authentic credibility to why he's promoting the brand. I mean, you saw somebody posted and said, would you even be doing this, if they weren't paying you? And the answer is yes. He's giving them a reason, why am I promoting the brand? And then why should you believe me? And ultimately, why should you act on what I'm telling you to do? And so finding that fit is, to me, the most imperative advice I can give to somebody out there.
Awesome. Yeah, it was interesting. And Arie, I don't know if I ever told you this, but at the very beginning, when we were starting down this path, the room there at PF Chang's was a little bit mixed on. They're like, well, should we work with Arie? I think people were still harboring some feelings from your season, my man. And and we had done some fun with that. And what the point here is that sometimes your personal likes or feelings are a little different than what makes sense for the brand. And Heidi was a supporter. Arie, Heidi was a supporter.
Oh, thank you, Heidi.
You're so sweet.
You're welcome, Arie.
but that's why there is that data side of the equation too, right? Because there may be someone who, me personally doesn't align with the same way, but they're a great fit for my brand, or they are a great fit for our audience. And that's something that from both the science side of influencer marketing, you go into and you understand the data. You understand who the audience is, how they're engaging, how they're reacting. And I've got to tell you, that video that you sent initially won everybody over. They were like,
Seal the
oh
deal.
my God, he works for PF Chang's, he works for us, he's in. We're good. Let's go.
I do have to admit, we did go into the HR system and check to make sure Arie did, and he legitimately was employed by PF Chang's.
I think that was back in my phase. I think I was 16 years old. I had a tongue ring. I mean, I can't believe I just said that on the internet. And I remember something about I had to take out the tongue ring, and I was like, no, I can't do that. And I don't know, when you're 16, you have jobs here and there, but I really loved PF Chang. So, when you first get employed, you get to try all the food for the first, I don't know how many days. At least that's how it was back then, Heidi. I don't know if it's like that now. And I was
still the same,
I was like, I'm going to just, work here and try all this, keep eating all this food. But yeah, it was definitely a fun time in my life. And it was just really funny when I got that cameo. It was actually a cameo. And so I sent it to you guys, and it was just, I don't know, it's kind of funny, small world, it all comes full circle, you know what I mean? And here we are talking about PF Chang's, I don't know, was that 20 years later?
Funny how things work. And I can see the tweet and article tomorrow, Arie, that, at 16, Arie had a tongue ring. So that's that was breaking news. Paul, you're gonna have to deal with that on the back end, but that's fine.
It's kind of amazing I became the Bachelor. I don't even know how that happened. So
that didn't get through the background check. That didn't come up.
No.
So that's good. And this Paul and Heidi, this is for you. There are marketers on this call right now who would say, okay, well, yeah, but a long-term partnerships, there's a lot of risk, right? There's a lot of risk in that, and we have to, we can sign an agreement for a singular contract or for a singular activation, but what would you say to an individual or to a brand who's evaluating whether they should take the leap of faith to go out there and sign a longer term agreement? Let's kick off with you.
So there's a couple interesting things that you can do. You can put options in a one-off agreement. You can be like, listen, here's this one-off opportunity with the option to continue if it's successful, or to continue the conversation. So it's something where, we just started doing it this year. Let's say someone really knocks it out of the park. There's an option in there for them to renew mutually agreeable for an additional 1 month or 3 month activation after that. Another thing is to really check out data. And I'm probably gonna get a lot of heat from this, but a lot of platforms out there, they do have a lot of inaccurate data. I was just on the phone with someone last week that had someone's data, because Facebook and Instagram's a closed API. So what does that mean? It means that you can't get someone's audience from Instagram or Facebook unless you specifically ask for it. There's a lot of platforms out there that purchase estimates, and what I've seen is that some are better than others, and certain people, their data is somewhat accurate, some of it isn't. But what I personally recommend, and it's just very easy for me to do this, here's a Dropbox or a Google Drive of their most recent stats. Instagram, Facebook, here's their, the people that really follow them, here's their countries, here's their age, here's everything that is an accurate representation of what their Instagram or Facebook looks like. And it literally takes me 30 seconds to do that. There's an article that was released probably a year or two ago where a lot of Fortune 500 companies, I think the point of the article was that Fortune 500 companies wasted tens of millions of dollars on individuals, influencers, creators, celebrities with fake followers. And I think it was like tens of millions of fake followers. And that's why this partnership with Arie was so successful, because his audience is extremely authentic. He has no fake followers. If I were to send you his demographics, it's like 91, 92% women, 8% men, all in the United States, a certain age group of, let's say, 25 to 35. It's really concentrated. And there's a lot of creators out there that tend to have fake audiences, and you're just burning through money at that point. And I personally always recommend that. And also, stats change on a weekly basis. Let's say Arie, he just welcomed a new child into his life. His stats are going to be much higher than what they were a month or two ago. So that's why it's always important to try to get as much accurate information as, I would say regularly, just to make sure that if you do decide to move forward with a partnership, that you're kind of getting what you pay for. And if I get an email, PF Chang wants to work with Arie, it's going to take me 10 seconds to send this data out. I already have it on my computer saved. And, those 10 seconds can lead to something huge. And if the creator is authentic, they'll have no problem providing those stats. And if they're not authentic and they don't want to provide it, there's some red flags there.
Huge. That's I hope everybody was scribbling notes as fast as they could, because that was absolute gold. The data, first party data, is critical. And so just like Paul said, some of the value of working with a great agency or great great talent managers, you can get to that first party data. It's funny, we have a technology system that alerts us to fraud, like fraud alerts within our, when we're doing evaluations. And Arie, you popped up on the fraud alert because your YouTube following is growing fast. Like people are loving your new YouTube channel, and it's like, man, it's like, hey, it's growing really fast. This might be an issue. No, it's not an issue. It's just people are loving what you're doing. So that's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. It's been fun doing the YouTube thing. It's been a new thing for Lauren and I. We're trying to be consistent with it. It's a whole different world, but a lot of our Instagram following has obviously come over to the YouTube channel, and it's been interesting. It's a whole different animal because there's a lot of editing involved, a lot more time involved, but it also brings people into our lives in a different way. So it's been fun.
It's great. So Heidi, going back to that question that I'd asked earlier, you're representing the brand, and there are bosses you have to go back to. You have to make the business case to why you should do the long-term partnership or not. What advice do you have around that?
Yeah, test and learn. So similar to what I mentioned before is if you're able to at least get leadership or whoever it is that's making the decision to agree to go in and test somebody, that's the route to go. The data, to Paul's point, to Tyler's point, is going to showcase that spot on, and that's exactly what it did for us and Ari. Like I mentioned, his engagement rate on that first post was so incredible and really high for what we have personally seen that we knew it was a no-brainer to continue working with him.
Awesome. Well, guys, I want to get to our kind of final question here. This influencer marketing space is continuing to change. It's like rapidly evolving. Everybody here on this call and in this session understands that. I think that brands, and I've seen brands starting to shift toward fewer but longer term partnerships rather than more short term partnerships. And within that smaller group of creators they're partnering with, I'm seeing brands do really cool things. So, for example, we would bring Ari in to the test kitchen of PF Chang's and have like a half-day working session where we work through ideas and all kinds of cool things. I'm seeing longer-term content partnerships that are extending beyond social onto TV and other channels like this. I'm seeing just these unique ambassador programs that are really becoming quite robust. And that's where I see a lot of influencer marketing going. There'll still be one-off partnerships. There's still going to be micro-influencer partnerships and things like this. But with the larger partnerships, I think we're going to see a lot more longevity, a lot more of the long-term. Paul, to your point earlier, supply and demand. At the upper end of creator partnerships, there's not an unlimited amount of people who are great. And that's part of where I see things shaking. So final thoughts. We'll start with Paul, then we'll go to Ari, then we'll wrap with Heidi, and then I'll come back and wrap things up.
Yeah, I mean, it's just something where, like you mentioned, supply and demand. It's the longer term partnerships. What I personally recommend: flex your muscles. If you're a brand and you have so much to offer and just so many cool ideas and opportunities, like you have Chang's, we have this thing in Vegas, we have X, Y, and Z. Flex your muscles. Go to the store. Make it fun. Half the battle that I face with a lot of these new partnerships, they're very one-dimensional and they're boring. And it's just true. And it's the point where you want to make the creators or influencers or celebrities happy and excited. It's the point now where we have the opportunity to work with all these direct-to-consumer companies that they want one-offs, and it just some of them you'll take as a cool idea or it's fun, but it starts to get really, really boring really fast. And we love fun partnerships because the content comes across way better too. When Ari posts something as a feed post and it involves, let's say, his family and it's like a really fun idea, it's game over. The fans love seeing that, and it's something where the space the last 5-6 years has gotten very saturated. Most of social media, especially Instagram, is very millennial driven, and they can see right through fakeness. And as an influencer too, like they have feelings. They don't like seeing or getting negative comments. They don't like seeing DMs that are weird and awkward. They get happy when they're doing something that they feel really good and happy about, and it shows with the with the comments and the DMs and the response from the fans, and also the engagement. If it's something that really just incorporates his, let's say Ari's life and his family, and it's just such a fun, cool idea with a cool brand, his following actually reacts well to that. They're happy that they're watching that and they're seeing that content. Versus here's another one-off partnership that's a kind of new or cool idea, and it's very scripted. It doesn't really know what it's doing, but that's what I'm saying. Like, make it fun, and that lack of excitement tends to be present in content.
Awesome, thanks, Ari.
Yeah, I think Paul definitely nailed it on the head. I think when you have a longer-term partnership, there's more room to get creative and to do different things. The PF Chang's partnership is a great example of we had that live event in Vegas, and it was such an incredible event. We met Montel Jordan there. Our followers loved, coming along on that journey because it was different and creative. And I think that when you have a single post for a brand, it doesn't really allow the creativity to come through as much as a long-term partnership. And also for an influencer, I would say that we don't really want to work with 100 brands. We'd love to work with 5, because the brands that really do well on our page are the ones that our followers can see that there's a connection to. And if we're doing multiple brands every week, you lose a little bit of that authenticity. So room to get creative. Long-term partnerships are, I guess, the best for us.
Perfect. Thank you. Heidi.
Yeah, so I totally agree with both of them. And then Arie's really nailed it too on the authentic content. So that is something that as a brand we're seeing really shift. In the past, it was okay for somebody to say, hey, go to P.F. Chang's, try this dish, it's delicious. Cool, they mentioned me on their story. But that's not enough anymore, because the followers are getting savvier. They are craving this storytelling aspect. And so when you can do that, you are drawing an authenticity and a credibility to not only the influencer themselves, but to the brand. And then the other big shift that I've really seen is, historically, companies have wanted to partner with the mega influencers, the celebrities, those that have the millions upon millions of followers, with the mindset being the more followers, the better, right? The better reach that's going to happen. And yes, while your reach will be massive, that doesn't necessarily mean that those folks are going to convert. So making sure that you're finding partners that, again, align with your brand, that's followers are receptive to your brand messaging, is going to be the most important thing. And so we're really starting to see companies and brands shift to that mentality and work with these partners on a longer term basis, because they know that it works, right? They know that there's that relationship that we're building upon, and having somebody go out and tweet about us, to millions of people isn't necessarily going to help us achieve the goals that we've set out to achieve.
Awesome. Well, guys, you heard it. You heard it from the best in the business. And what you can imagine, and those of you on the session today, whether you've been involved in influencer marketing, whether you're in it right now, whether you're a professional in it, you know how much work and energy and effort go into every step along this journey. Whether it's from the brand side of creating campaigns, or from the agency side of helping to organize and manage every step of this, or from the talent manager side of interacting, or from the creator side of building your art and putting it out there to the world and seeing how that reacts. There are a lot of moving parts. Creating great long-term partnership, like you've just heard today, has value. It has a lot of value. There are price breaks. There are engagement opportunities. There's additional creativity. I'd be remiss if I didn't say, that's where groups like us at August United, we love jumping in. We love helping Heidi come up with concepts, and then, interact with Paul and interact with Arie, and help make sure that all of this stuff just lands well and impacts the outcome that we're trying to drive. At the end of the day, if we're only creating great content, but it's not driving business outcome, we can't continue to do these things. And so that's where the data comes back. That's continuing to head going forward. So I hope everybody took some great takeaways from today. Like I mentioned earlier in the session, if you would like, go to the link that's up. I think there's a link up in the upper right-hand corner. There may be a link on the lower third as well. Click on that. We'll send you a takeaways document. Like I said, a few people are going to get a P.F. Chang's gift card. Heidi, you didn't know that, but hey.
I did not know that. I would have helped you with that, Tyler.
ROI. You can bank some ROI to this right now. This is good.
I appreciate it.
And Heidi, Paul, Arie, thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, and all the love to each of you, and appreciate everything that you're bringing today.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, guys, that's it. We're out. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday.